Hello everyone, welcome back. Now as it's winter, it's a very quiet time of year, all the cows are dry. All we're really doing is feeding silage, liming cubicles and dusting minerals. I'm being the only one working in the yard really for the last couple of weeks, so I'm going to take the opportunity today to talk about outdoor cubicles, because I get a lot of questions on these. Obviously, most common type of winter accommodation in Ireland and in a lot of places would be the same as this, just with a roof on it. I want to talk about why we went with outdoor cubicles, how the cows find them, how we find them, the pros and cons, all that jazz. So right now I'm over in our old outdoor cubicles over by the shed, or old winter facilities I should say, and this is where, this is where we first trialled outdoor cubicles. So in the shed behind me here, we had 50 indoor cubicles in there. There's another 40 here. And then this area out here between this wall and the shed was a silage pit. But we decided when we needed to increase accommodation space, we decided to put outdoor cubicles in it. And it was connected into the shed, so the cows had the choice to lie outside or to lie inside, or be outside or be inside. It was pretty clear after a few years that the cows normally chose to be outside, especially in spring. As cow numbers went down, as cows were going out to grass, you could see a lot of cows would be outside. Now, there was a couple of contributing factors. Obviously, the cubicles inside were old, they didn't have mats or anything. These were new, they had mats, but you could see just from the cows' behaviour, generally they just wanted to be outside, standing around, rather than inside. These cows are the empty cows at the moment. You see they're eating in this feed pasture inside, was seen in my last video, and they're also eating at the outside. So there was originally cubicles up at this part of the shed. We decided they really need to be redone after a while. They were quite, they were getting run down, they need to be redone. We decided the best thing for the area was to just rip out all the cubicles and put in a flat floor to use as extra calving space. We normally calve the sheds at the other side of that big wall in the silage pit, so we decided to increase the calving area there. So that we found was the best decision for that, which leaves 100 cubicles over here. There's 40 indoor and 60 outdoor. Now at the moment these are separate. I have different batches inside, and just the empty cows are all in these outdoor cubicles. But this is where we first trialled them. We thought they worked well, and that's how we decided we will go completely outdoor when building a much bigger facility. We've always as well did a lot of outwintering, had animals out on grass or kale or fodder beet and things like that in the past, especially with young stock, and they're always the ones outside, of course, probably getting on grass and things. They always did better, but they always were happy enough outside. One thing cows do, like most animals, dogs or that their skin gets thicker and they put on more fur during the winter. It's like throwing on a few more layers like we do during the winter, so that they're warmer. So with regards how the cows find the outdoor cubicles, they seem to be happy enough with it. We have a crossbred cow, so they're a hardy enough cow with the Jersey in them, as opposed to maybe a purebred Holstein Friesian wouldn't be as hardy to the elements and all that. Jersey is known to be a hardy breed, so the crossbred cow, they seem to be happy enough with them. Doesn't get that cold for a cow in Irish winter. Okay, tonight I'm probably in the coldest days at the moment. During the night there it was around -8 this morning. Doesn't get that cold very often, but despite being that kind of cold doesn't really bother the cows, because it was just cold. It wasn't wet, it wasn't windy, it was just cold. They don't mind it at all. When you start getting into combining the elements, so they have wind and rain and cold, weather like that they don't really like, and that's when they look for shelter and that, like they would out in the field. The shelter is also a big success to this. So this area, there's quite a large wall running down the far side. We have the slurry tower, the silage bit. The prevailing wind comes from that side, and it's also walled all the way around there with old stone wall that was already there. So it's quite a sheltered area. It's not very open, eliminates a lot of the wind. So with regards all those wind, cold, wet, all that coming together, we eliminate a lot of the wind by it being sheltered. So the cows are really 9 out of 10 days at least on an Irish winter, the cows are very happy to be out here. I do notice even when it is raining, cows aren't really bothered by that. It's only if it's very windy rain or that, like it would be in a field. Generally, there's lashing rain in the field, cows aren't too bothered by it. Obviously they prefer if it's not raining, but when you think about it, most of the time it's not actually raining, even though it rains an awful lot in Ireland during the winter. The biggest plus to going outdoor cubicles is obviously the cost of the setup. Don't quote me on it, but I did read an article, it's a good while ago now, where they were talking, a couple of years ago, and they were talking about it roughly cost maybe €50,000 to put a roof over 100 cows. So you're talking this type of scale of shed, maybe 414 cows, maybe 200,000 to cover that. Now when we were building this shed, we put in the pillars in case we ever want to or have to cover the cubicles in the future, and it should help make it easier and cheaper to cover them in the future. But as of now, we have no intention of covering them because we think they work really well. Now, of course, all that money you save from not building a shed, you don't get to keep all that in your pocket, because you are catching rainwater when there is no roof there, which is mixed with slurry. That means you must store it during the closed period and spread it. And also on the same article that I read, I can't remember the name of it, so I can't directly quote it, but it was saying that for outdoor cubicles, it increases your slurry storage capacity by about 80%. So that's quite a jump, but it's a lot cheaper to build this tower than it would be to cover the cubicles, but still another expense, and of course a lot more slurry to be spread, which is expensive as well. But this slurry here in this tower, this is a 670,000 gallon slurry tower. That slurry isn't very watery. You would think with all the rainwater that catches that it would be very, very watery, but as you see from the texture from it going in, on a normal winter it is relatively, it's a good texture. It's great. We spread a lot of slurry with umbilical cord. It's very good for that. It's not too thick. It works pretty well. When it comes to cleaning it up at the end of the winter, when the cows are no longer on it, we want to clean it up for the summer. The way we have it designed is there's a small lag just before the slatted tank, and when these are all clean and the clean rainwater is falling on clean ground, we can open up some little holes just before the tank, so that clean water runs away. You're not catching it all summer, so that works well. Obviously they're all closed up when it's catching and it's going to be dirty water. It is much easier to clean them down, hose them up and all that, because they're getting rainfall and that, as opposed to inside the shed. It's just a very small plus, but it does make a difference when we're power hosing. So another big element people will ask me about is mastitis. Is there much more incidence of mastitis, that's bacteria getting into the udder, when the cows are on cubicles? Here we try and get the cows straight out to grass once they calf. So when they spring up, here they move down to there's cubicles in the shed beside the calving pen. Move down there so we can keep a close eye on the cows who are springing up, and they can be moved into the straw shed when they're about to calf. And then try and go out full time out to grass, ideally in the spring. Sometimes it doesn't work. You kind of have to be in by day or in by night, out by day, different things. You know how it is. But most of the time we try to get straight out to grass and they're not milking off the cubicles. Ideally in the back end, towards the end of the year, you try and keep them out to grass as long as possible, but they're more likely to be on cubicles then. I don't think there is a huge gap between incidence of mastitis on outdoor cubicles versus indoor cubicles. We lime these every day. If cows are milking on them and are on them full time, we would lime them twice a day, so during each milking. But I think there's a much bigger gap between the incidence of mastitis with cows on cubicles versus cows out with grass. And I think that gap is much bigger. I think I've covered most of the pros and cons to the outdoor cubicles and most of the general questions I get in them. Just a summary to wrap up on it. Biggest pros are obviously the cost of setup is much cheaper not to build a roof over it, and The cows, our cows, prefer probably at least 9 days out of 10 on an average Irish winter. They would prefer to be in the outdoor cubicles than the indoor cubicles. They're easier to wash down at the end of the year. Slurry, or more liquidy slurry, is easier to manage when it comes to spreading. They're probably some of the pros. Obviously the cheaper cost of setup is the biggest one. Cons then, probably biggest one is rainwater. The amount of rainwater you catch, the extra slurry storage, the cost of increased slurry storage, and the cost of spreading extra slurry. They're probably the biggest cons. The other con to it is maybe a small increase in mastitis if you're milking off them versus outdoor, but I don't think it is as big. I don't know, you'd probably have to look into more trials, but from what we see, it isn't actually that big once you're managing your cubicles well. It works okay. After that, people always actually ask about silage. Does the silage spoil getting rained on? I don't see any big difference really. We just land the silage out in the blocks. I don't think the rain affects it too much. There's probably the same amount of waste. What waste is going to be there is going to be there either way. Maybe, but I don't think it's any notable difference really. Nothing worth covering this feeding area for. So I hope I have covered everything, or most of the questions I get asked on the outdoor cubicles, and that if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you have any more questions, just leave them in the comments below and I'll try my best to answer them. Apart from that, thanks for watching guys. If you like this video and you want to see more, hit the subscribe button. Thanks for watching.